Hello, sports fans. It is Tuesday, November the 26th, the year 2013. And as usual, a lot to get to in the sports world, so let's get it going right now. And we are ready for week 14 of the college football season, my personal favorite week of the entire year. And once again, we are joined by Mr. Joe Spano from Sirius Satellite Radio by way of the Sports Bylines. Joe, welcome.
Oh, Mike, my pleasure. And you are right. What a weekend this is going to be. After kind of suffering through the past 2 weeks where, there wasn't that many games that you really wanted to watch. And the few games you did get amped up about didn't turn out to be great football games. We're now going to get to a schedule that has a lot of traditional rivalries, a lot of important games, and a lot of games that should be must-watch football.
I absolutely agree. The last 2 weeks to me were painful. I thought the Baylor-Oklahoma State game was going to be decent. It turned out to be horrible. Oklahoma State blew them right off the field, and we can forget about the Baylor quarterback winning the Heisman Trophy as well.
Oh, it cost them. With that effort against Oklahoma State, he's out of the Heisman Trophy running, and it's now down to, I guess, Jameis Winston, but his off-the-field issues could have a far-reaching effect on that. A.J. McCarron. Obviously, Johnny Manziel's out of the mix because of Texas A&M's performance and his off-the-field stuff.
I don't want to hear Manziel anymore. He was awful against LSU. Right. Awful. I want his name out. You know who I want in there? I want to mention for Carr, the Fresno State quarterback. Not that he should win it. I want him at least mentioned in the conversation.
Okay, so he doesn't have to go to New York, but you just want to mention.
I could actually see him going to New York, but not winning it. I'll include him. What do they have? 5 guys that are going to go to New York?
5 guys.
Let's put him in one of the 5. I say he can make the trip to New York. I don't think he should win it. They have a light schedule. They don't play anyone, but I like him as a quarterback. And some of these other guys have bowed out. The Baylor quarterback, good night. I mean, the Texas A&M quarterback, goodbye. Winston, to me, is the front runner by far, depending on his legal issues.
Right. If they end up filing charges,
absolutely,
that's going to have a far-reaching effect. Nobody talks about A.J. McCarron for the simple reason that Alabama's a powerhouse. Well, A.J. McCarron is an elite-level quarterback and should get major consideration for the Heisman Trophy.
Absolutely agree. If Winston doesn't win it, I'd like to see A.J. win it if Alabama...
Mariota's out of the mix now?
He's completely out of the mix. He was out of the mix to me when he lost to Stanford. He's certainly out of the mix after their follies against Arizona this past weekend. They were blown out again, showed no life. The quotes in the paper, we don't care about the Rose Bowl. Oregon, pipe down a little bit. I mean, you got blown off the field.
They don't care about the Rose Bowl because they're not going.
Right. They were saying this before the Arizona game.
You know where they're going. They're going to end up. They're going to end up in a pretty good football game. They're going to end up in a Holiday Bowl,
which is always a fun game.
Which is always a fun game. They'll get a Big 12 opponent, and it'll be a fun, exciting, high-scoring shootout of a football game. But if you didn't care about the Rose Bowl, that's good news because you ain't going.
Right, exactly. I've been so disappointed in Oregon since the Stanford game. I mean, they have showed me no guts whatsoever. I mean, they're lifeless on the field. Did you see the way Arizona just bowled over them?
Yeah.
I could not believe it. And forget the Oregon quarterback for Heisman. That's long gone.
If you notice, an awful lot of guys, you've taken an awful lot of guys off the list. So who's on the list? Right. Jameis Winston, A.J. McCarron, who else?
Here's who's on the list. Jameis Winston is the favorite. Putting aside his legal issues.
Right.
A.J. McCarron is second to me if Alabama runs the table. I will put Carr in there as well. Not that I think he should win it, but I think he should go to New York. I will put Manziel and the Baylor quarterback in the top 5. They can go to New York, but I don't think they should win the award. So they want to go to New York for the award. I will allow that. But that's as far as I'm going with those two. Okay. Any other names you want to throw out there?
None that are sticking out for me at this point.
Right.
I mean, obviously, when you look at what the Heisman Trophy is, it's the best skill position offensive player on a top 10 team. And when you look, obviously, there's nobody on Oklahoma State that's going to get the award.
No. Clemson, you want to say the quarterback?
I guess Taj Boyd, but, that's not
so bad against Florida State. I mean, how could you put him in there?
I'll give you another one who just came to me, and he's somebody I've touted all year long. Mike Evans, the wide receiver at Texas A&M, and Johnny Manziel's #1 target. He's had a terrific year.
He is. You want to throw him in the top 6. I could see you doing that. But
Give him some thought. He's a terrific.
But I think Winston is by far, the leader in
with
the everybody
with everybody falling off the map. Yeah, Obviously, Braxton Miller was out a big chunk of the year, so he's not in the mix. James Franklin missed a bunch of the year, so he's not in the mix at Missouri. I'm trying to think.
No, we have the guys. We have the general guys there. But I'll tell you, I'm not a big Heisman lover. I think it's overhyped.
Again,
I could do without it.
Here's what the award is. It is the award for the best skilled position offensive player on a top 15 team.
Look at some of the guys that have won the Heisman, like Gino Torretta. I mean, some of these guys that have won the Heisman.
Danny Waffle.
Right, exactly.
For quarterbacks, it's not a surefire thing that if you win the Heisman, that future NFL success is assured to come your way.
Andre Ware won the Heisman, if I'm not mistaken.
And he's had great success as an announcer.
Right.
Not as a football player.
Not in the NFL, no.
Exactly right.
I don't like the Heisman. I don't like the hype. I don't like the talk about it. I like more of the team stuff. I don't like individual awards at all. None of the awards.
I'm not a big fan. Like, I know ESPN does that awards night.
Oh, they love
where,
that.
Where it's all the other awards. You know, the Heisman Trophy gets the stage to itself.
Right.
Then ESPN has the College Football Award night. It's a Davey O'Brien Award, the Ben Derrick Award, the Ray Guy Award.
I can't.
I don't watch it. I can't.
I can't.
I'll read about who won the next day and look at the voting.
I'm not a big award guy.
I don't watch award shows. I'm not
an ESPY guy.
I don't watch that. I don't watch the Oscars. I don't watch the Emmys.
The Oscars and
I might watch the Tonys.
And
Frisco.
Right. The Oscars and the music awards have become unwatchable. They become. My sister loves all that stuff. They become unwatchable.
I like to watch some girl shake her ass.
But everybody tries to get up there and tries to be funny. There's like one award at the beginning of the night. Then there's like 6 hours of fill-up time. It's like a complete waste of time to me. So I am not a big award show guy to begin with. I'm certainly not going to be watching the Heisman.
Right.
But to me,
I don't watch the whole thing because basically they take it, turn it into an hour show.
Right.
I watch it. I'll DVR it, go through it, and watch it to the point where they announce the winner.
Absolutely.
I don't know why, but I do like to see them announce winners, and maybe I like to look at his speech.
Any comment on Mr. Winston yet? I don't know what to even think here with this case. We've heard so many of these cases in sports, you don't know what to think at this point.
I really... See, I don't like to speculate when it comes to, these type of legal matters.
Right.
And I've heard so many things. I've heard that the accuser was convinced not to follow through, and I've heard I've heard all these things as far as what's going on in this case. Until I hear and see more, I will reserve judgment on whether, on my opinion as far as guilt or innocent, because I'm not big on speculating on guilt or innocence. So let's hear more as things start to come out, and I'll be better able to formulate an opinion on what I'm hearing. Right now, I'm all over the map because what's coming out in the media is all over the map. So he did it, he didn't do it. It's all over the place.
So no gut feeling on if he's going to be charged or not charged. I can't get a feeling for it.
I can't get any sort of feeling based on the mixed messages that I've had come out in the media. But what I will say, everything I have heard, if he's going to be charged, it'll either be tomorrow or Friday.
Right, so we should hear something very soon on that.
Yes.
Okay, now as far as getting back to this week, me and you, we're all over the board as usual.
We're all over the map, we're going to rein it back in there.
This week, to me, is the essence of college football.
Right. And it starts on Thursday night.
It starts Thursday night.
Which, I don't know, if we may not get to that game. I don't know.
We're getting to that game. I didn't miss a trick here with the rivalries. Absolutely. We're getting
it starts Thursday night, and the Egg Bowl has become a traditional Thursday night matchup for about the last decade.
Yeah.
It wasn't always a Thursday night game. It was one of the games on Saturday.
Right.
But that's become a traditional Thursday nighter. LSU Arkansas has become a traditional Friday afternooner.
Sure.
And then, Saturday you have all the usual suspects.
To me, these games are better than any bowl game. Better than any national championship game. So many of the national championship games I've been disappointed in. Very few have been great. Very few.
National championship games are like Super Bowls.
Right.
And a lot of times there's more hype than substance. These traditional rivalry matchups, I'll equate them to a conference championship game in the NFL, the AFC and NFC conference championships. A lot of times that's better football than the Super Bowl.
And these are for the real college football fan. The national title game, the Super Bowl, is for the non-football fan that parachutes in once a year.
Right.
These are for...
Wouldn't know either team if he fell over them.
Right, exactly. I mean, the fan bases, the traditions, the years these teams have gone at it. I mean, some of these teams are playing since the 1800s.
Yes.
The venues. I was just reading that for the Alabama-Auburn game, RVs were pulling up in Auburn on Sunday.
I believe it.
Sunday.
You gotta remember, college football is religion down there.
Right.
NFL football is not
No.
religion down there.
No.
You know, obviously there are a bunch of State fans because it's a regional team. Everything on that Gulf Coast
Right.
and all the way out, they're big Saint fans.
And you got some Falcon fans down there as well.
That's very true.
Right.
But it's not religion the way college football is.
No.
So I can absolutely see everybody forsaking spending any time watching the New Orleans. Well, the New Orleans Saints played on Thursday, so that makes it easier this week. So there was no even concern. But NFL is not religion to them.
Right.
So there's nobody saying, boy, we got to sit at home and we got to watch NFL football.
Remember the week. These people have been there since Sunday. The game's Saturday. They're spending
Are they drinking yet?
They're spending their Thanksgiving there.
Yeah, I didn't even think
They
about
are
that.
spending their Thanksgiving there waiting for this game. They're going to spend a solid week there.
You would think they could get there Friday. You know, I mean, this Friday.
No, they want to soak up the essence. They want to soak it all in. That's how big these games are. I mean, I can see why they want to get there early. They want to just...
I don't know if I want to I don't know if I want to have my Thanksgiving dinner in an RV, though.
Right, they are...
I mean, I know these RVs are decked out.
Right.
And
You ever seen a Madden Cruiser? What he had? He had a house on
gorgeous.
wheels.
And, you know, for a lot of people, they're as nice as some people's homes.
Absolutely, they are. You see, the Madden Cruiser, when he used to drive around that was a house on wheels.
Yes.
So these people have been there since Sunday. That is amazing to me. Now, you have been to the Egg Bowl, but you didn't go on Thanksgiving night.
No.
You went to Mississippi State.
Right, but it wasn't when the Egg Bowl was on a Thursday. It was a long time
Now,
ago.
was it over Thanksgiving weekend, or was it another week?
I believe it was Thanksgiving, but it was Saturday.
So you left, what, the day after Thanksgiving? Or did you
Yeah, I left on Friday.
You did that.
Yeah.
You did do that. Did you drive down, or you take a plane?
I took a plane.
You did.
But I do enjoy Oxford very much.
You
as
did.
know.
You said you loved, Oxford. You loved
did.
the Grove and all that kind of
I think it's a great place. It's one of the more under-recognized places to go
Right.
around the SEC. You know, obviously, everybody's going to talk about Tuscaloosa, and
Right.
everybody's going to talk about Athens,
Right.
and everybody's going to talk about Auburn, and everybody's going to talk about Baton Rouge.
Right.
You know, and there's great, and everybody's going to talk about Knoxville as well, especially when they're winning.
There's a bunch
But
of them.
nobody talks about going to Oxford and how great a place it is.
So you definitely recommend it. Now, this year's game is not in Oxford.
It's in Starkville, which I have never been to Starkville.
Right.
Starkville.
You don't want to do the cowbell thing. I can see you in the
would.
stands with the
See,
cowbell.
there's so many places I would go.
You know, there's the list
But
is so
you know,
long.
I don't. You know, I haven't been to Starksville. It's not quite on the bucket list.
Right.
Because the bucket list always grows.
Right.
You know, and I don't know how many of these places I can get to. I don't know if I can hit all 105, 106 odd 1-8 stops along the way.
Right. Or you said your next stop you'd love to go to Oregon.
I would.
You know, that's a big trip. You got to go
I'd
way
go to
out.
Eugene. Well, plane does most of the work.
That's true. That's true.
You know, I mean, really, the plane does most of the work. I'd love to fly to Eugene.
You would.
You know, and that's fun.
That's next on the list. All right. So
Maybe a Civil War.
Right, there we go. Oregon State. And I told you, I met that guy in the city. He turned out to be the Oregon State fan. Remember?
So instead of going to Eugene, we'll go to Corvallis. We'll go to Reser Stadium.
The guy I met in the middle of New York City asked me for directions. He turns out to be an Oregon State fan. Gives me his card. He said, "You're ever out there in Oregon, we'll go to a game."
Yeah, all right. So we'll go to Reser. We'll make it one of our road
You
trips.
may be able to talk him into going to Eugene if it's Oregon State. You may be able to talk him into going.
That's
to
true. Now, this year the game is in Eugene.
Eugene. Next year.
Next year it's in Corvallis. Get them on a line. We'll go next year to
There you go.
Corvallis.
Gotta
Make it one
work
of our
on
road
it.
trips.
Gotta work on it. So before we get into this week's games, I want to pay a little homage to a few rivalries that are no longer, that I wish were still going on. First of all, I miss Texas A&M on Thanksgiving night. I have to admit it. I love that game. I miss it tremendously. Wish they never would have ended that rivalry.
I agree wholeheartedly. I can't agree with you more. Let me see if you hit all of them, because I may have some that you missed.
Pitt, West Virginia, the backyard brawl. Even though the teams might not be so good,
That's a big brawl. That's a
I
big rivalry.
loved when they went at it. I loved that game. I wish they would still play that game. They haven't played it in a couple years.
Right.
Kansas, Missouri, for my friends out in the Midwest. You know, about 10 years ago, I looked this up. Those two teams were 2-3 ranked in the polls when they played this game. 2-3. Look it up. About 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
They played in Kansas City, in Arrowhead, and they were ranked 2-3 at the time. I believe Missouri won, I think Missouri ended up going to one and then ended up losing to Oklahoma.
Oh,
yeah, we
okay.
got to do a little research.
I'll do some
on that.
research on that one because that's not one that was sitting in the front of my mind when you were talking about rivalries gone by.
No, for my friends in the Midwest, and they have had some success. Now, Missouri's still good this year. Kansas, of course, has fallen on hard times.
Right.
But about 10 years ago, like I said, Kansas and Missouri were ranked 2 and 3. Look it up. Do some homework. They played in Arrowhead. They split the fan base. I think Missouri won. I think they went to one, but then lost to Oklahoma in the championship game. That's another one. Oklahoma-Nebraska.
That one, that one to me,
yes.
I miss wholeheartedly.
Right.
Because those two teams were now I'm going to really date myself. They were the Big Eight.
You're older than me.
Right. They were the Big Eight.
Right.
And man, that game on Thanksgiving weekend
Yeah.
was terrific.
I agree.
And it usually was for the Big Eight crown. And the winner of that game was going to the Orange Bowl.
Right.
And many times the winner of that game was also in line to win a national championship.
Absolutely. I missed that game tremendously.
That one more than any one you've mentioned so far.
Briefly in the Big 12, I think they did play in the Big 12 title game, but they used to play every year. I mean, they just ruined that rivalry. I mean, I hope they get it back someday, but you know, with these conference realignments, who knows what any of this stuff.
Well, with the Big Ten, it's so hard because they're one of those huge conferences.
Right.
So there's not that many opportunities for non-conference scheduling. If you're a Big 12 team, you're a small conference, you got plenty of room on your schedule.
Absolutely. Now, another game that is not played over Thanksgiving weekend that I wish they would continue is up your alley, Michigan-Notre Dame. Now, this is not played on Thanksgiving weekend.
Right.
It's played in the beginning of the season.
But it was a traditional rivalry. It was a rivalry that's
Right.
traditional, but there was a lot of breaks in it. It wasn't always an every year. They'd schedule
Right.
3 to 5 years. And then and then Notre Dame with their zeal to target all kinds of different non-conference foes from all over the country, they might switch that game to Ohio State.
Right.
They've done it. They've scheduled that spot for all different top teams around the Big Ten.
Now, did I miss any? You have any off the top of your
No,
head?
you did. You really hit the home run.
Yeah,
You really-
I do my research. You
No,
know that.
you
I
did
write
it.
it down.
You did a great job with that one. I think you really nailed all the traditional rivalry. I mean, one more that comes to mind, but it is a long time gone, so you can't even blame it on the latest. Penn State Pitt.
Yes, that is another one. Absolutely.
Back when
yes.
when it was just Eastern football.
Right, exactly. I mean, I remember also Penn State-Syracuse was a
Yep.
big rivalry as
But
well.
Penn State Pitt
Yes.
always comes to mind because up until Penn State joined the Big Ten and Pitt joined the Big East,
Yeah,
that was a big rivalry when they were two Eastern independents.
absolutely. So we got to include that game as well.
That's the only one I could think of that you.
So I did my homework. There we go. Okay, without...
You get a firm A minus.
There we go. No A plus on that one?
No, because you forgot Penn State Pitt.
All right, there we go. All right, without further ado, let's get to the games. Let's get to the picks.
I'm excited. I'm ready. I've been ready for this. Last week we took off.
Yeah.
And I was so bummed.
Right, yeah.
I legitimately, I'm like, man, I really want to get back to it. And this week, I was itching to get here to get started with this because I'm like, man, we got rivalries, we got games.
and
Mike's geeked up, I'm geeked up.
And
This
after
is gonna be
last
fun.
week watching teams score 80 and Alabama winning by 100 and Ohio
And
State...
I stayed home. I watch a lot of football, but a lot of times I'll go out within a social setting, but I get a TV to myself with volume and everything else. I watch a lot of college
It
football.
was painful.
I stayed home because I was so into Oklahoma State Baylor.
Oh,
And I'm like, really?
what a letdown
I'm
that
like,
game was.
really? And the reason I stayed home was because the focus at the place where I usually go to watch sporting events, the game what was going to have the sound on was the fight. The Pacquiao
fight, right.
I wanted to be A-list, big TV, everything. I said, I'm staying home for this.
Yeah.
I stayed on like, really?
Oh,
You
it
stayed
was-
home for this?
Once the Baylor quarterback tripped and fell at the one over his own legs and they couldn't get in because another guy's trying to put the ball over the end zone.
Shock Linwood tries to reach it out. Good job by the Oklahoma State defensive line.
many times have we
slap
seen
it out,
this, though?
recover it.
How many times has a running back or a receiver...
But you are exactly right. It changed the entire game.
As soon as he tripped over his own 2 feet and fell at the one and they couldn't get in, the game was over. You could have turned your setup right there because Oklahoma State blew them out. Hard to believe Oklahoma State lost to West Virginia now. I mean, now that you look back at that, how did that happen?
We talked about this today on the Spano Black Attack,
Right.
and had Oklahoma State settled on a quarterback earlier. And, their first half of this year, they struggled with finding who their quarterback was. They could be in the discussion.
Gundy can coach, and
he outcoached our Bryles on Saturday night.
I know a lot of people he rubs them the wrong way. He does a good job with the team, though. He's a very good
Look
coach.
at how they turned around that defense. Oklahoma State, the strength of that team was always offense.
Absolutely.
They were very limited on defense, and what little traction they were able to get on defense was thanks to their brilliant former defensive coordinator. Bill Young's a great defensive mind.
Very good.
He was a brilliant defensive coordinator and he used to help them a lot, but they were limited with their personnel. They've now done a great job over the years of recruiting. The current defensive coordinator is a disciple of Bill Young, and he has stayed in that Bill Young tradition, and they have recruited. They have all kinds of speed on that back line. They have all kinds of athleticism in that front seven. That's a real good defense that locked up those Baylor receivers, boy.
No, absolutely. But the other games, Joe, I mean, they were just as bad. I mean, teams scoring 80, 70.
Florida State making mashed potatoes out of Idaho.
Right. Every team in the top 25 seemed to win by 100 points.
Yeah.
I mean, there was just nothing going on.
Even settle in and say, you know what? I'm going to watch LSU, Texas A&M, because these are two pretty good SEC teams that'll play a lot of offense. And it's a one-sided game that was over at halftime.
That's another team. Texas A&M's defense.
They don't stop anybody.
And that's the thing. I know you love the coach, and I like the coach.
I do.
He's got to do a better job on defense.
He's going to leave, so don't worry about it.
He's not a defensive coach. You're still convinced he's taking the USC job.
Yeah, I am. I'm still convinced. And this was something we talked about off the air. Because you think they're just going to hire Coach O.
I think they should. I mean, he's done a tremendous...
He really has.
We'll get to this later, but he's done a tremendous job. And he's doing it right now. These other guys you're hiring may do it. He's doing it. He's doing it.
It's a fair point.
This year,
I'm not sure I'm convinced that he may be big enough for the room. And I don't know what Pat Hayden's looking for. But he has done an incredible job. Remember, when he went to Ole Miss...
He was terrible.
Well, he was a terrible game day coach.
Right.
He's a great recruiter. He could never turn it into wins on a football field on Saturday.
Right.
But a lot of coaches have had trouble at Ole Miss doing that. That was his first go-around. This is the second go-around. And USC looked like they were in a position to lose the city of Los Angeles to UCLA.
They are regaining.
Boy, have they regained traction. And this matchup on Saturday night, 8 Eastern Time, on ABC, will go a long way in recruiting and see who wins the city of Los Angeles.
He's doing such a great job. They've won 5 in a row. They're back in the top 25. This was a dead caucus.
I'll make you a gentleman's bet. I'll make you a bet that they don't hire him as the head coach. But I'll also make you a bet he gets a head coaching job somewhere else.
I'll tell you, that would be a mistake. I think everyone around USC wants him as the coach. Did you see him after they stormed the field? When he was up there with the sword and the band?
Oh, by the way, they didn't call him Crazy Ed for nothing.
Right.
He is crazy.
They loved it, though. The fans loved it. They stormed the field. They were going crazy. I mean, you got to give him a shot.
Okay.
I mean, you have to. He's doing it.
I know he can recruit. He's certainly doing a great job of coaching on Saturday right now.
And he didn't do a good job at Ole Miss on Saturdays. But I don't hold that against him. Plenty of people have been bad somewhere and great other places.
Let's see what happens. I'll make the gentleman's bet with you. They're not going to hire him.
I would be very disappointed.
But I also will make the other part of the bet and say, I guarantee you he does get hired as a head coach somewhere else. There are openings all around the country.
I'm sorry. He's got to get the USC job as far as I'm concerned. I think he deserves a shot. And these guys you're talking about, you could always get Jack Del Rio. I mean, Jack Del Rio's in hot demand.
He's certainly not a candidate for a head coaching job anywhere else. I'll give you that.
Right, exactly. So it's not like you can't go back to someone like him. I mean, come on. You have to give this guy the opportunity. What he's done this year
I'll predict
been
Kevin Sumlin's going to get that job.
Okay, I'm going to say Coach O gets it.
All right.
Because
I'll tell you, I'll love to watch it because he's crazy.
He is, but everyone around USC loves him.
And he has said all the right things. He said, I'll stay here in any capacity that they want me to.
Right.
And continue as that head recruiter and assistant head coach, defensive coordinator. I guarantee you, if USC doesn't hire him, another major program will definitely
And I know
hire him.
you love the Texas A&M coach, and I like him.
I like Kevin Sumlin a lot. I think it's great.
He's got to start playing some defense. He's got to start coaching some
Until
defense.
he starts to block and until he starts to tackle, they ain't going to play any defense at A&M.
He's a very offensive coach.
And by the way, now would be the perfect time to leave because you don't have a great defense, and Johnny Football's going to leave.
You see,
if you don't think they're going to take a step back at College Station and all of a sudden be 5-6 or 6-5, and sub 500 in the SEC, you're crazy. So now would be a good time to leave.
Well, that's the thing about him. He was a big offensive coach at Houston. He falls into Manziel at Texas A&M. They're playing no defense there. What has he exactly won? Have they won any SEC titles? Have they won any national championships? How about he stays there for a couple more years?
You know what he's doing? He's hanging his hat. You know what the big thing is? 2 exciting years under Johnny Manziel.
Yeah,
good records.
And he beat Alabama.
He beat Alabama. But that's enough. If they're going to offer you big money in a place you can recruit all the time, and the pressure that goes with it, if you want to make that move, you take it.
I'd be disappointed if USC did not hire Coach O.
Okay.
That's where I want to see them go. And I'm surprised I'm saying this because USC to me looked like a dead caucus. Under Kiffin, they were a dead caucus.
Well, Lane Kiffin gave Coach O the ringing endorsement.
Do you realize USC couldn't score at the beginning of the year? Now they're
putting
up 60
one of the worst
points.
offenses in the league.
They're putting up 60
in the
points.
country, I should say.
They're putting up 60 points. They're burying teams now. I mean, I love what he's doing. I think he deserves at least a shot. You can always go back to these other guys. You can always get Jack Del Rio.
Well, there's certainly not a long line of people that want Jack Del Rio to be their head coach. Right. I'll give you that.
So that's what I'm saying. You could always give him the opportunity. If it's a complete disaster, go back to one of these guys. I mean, unless you think the Texas A&M coach is going to go somewhere else. You think he's going to go somewhere else? You think he's going to go to Texas, maybe?
If Texas fires Mac Brown, yeah.
Do you think they're going to do that? I mean, they're on the fence with that all the time. I mean, sometimes yes, sometimes no. We don't know about that.
We don't know. Right. I know something. And I don't like to take I don't know, but in this case, I don't know.
Right, and here's another thing. Is Texas...
they're going to have a new AD in Texas as well.
And he said don't expect major changes. That's what he said.
Okay.
And here's another thing.
And changing Mac Brown would be a major trade.
Does Texas want to go after the Texas A&M coach? I mean, I think they think they're above that. We need to go get the Texas A&M coach. We're Texas.
It's a good football.
We don't need your coach. We'll get somebody else.
What are you going to get?
Well, first of all, this is if Mac Brown leaves. For all we know, he may stay.
See, I honestly thought when they hired a new AD, not only did I think Mac Brown was in trouble, I thought Rick Barnes was in trouble. Because the basketball program's been disappointing the last few years as well.
And he's always come up short, Barnes. I mean, he's always come up short. But when the AD took over, this is what he said, don't expect major changes. Now, you could take that with a grain of salt, for all we know. Yeah. I mean,
it's the dreaded vote of confidence.
Right. And Nick Saban's not going to Texas either. I know you want to throw that out there.
He's not going to Texas. I would love to see that because I don't want to see that. I think it would be a chance for him to be proven, to become by far, and this is all apologies to all the greatest college football coaches ever.
Right.
If you were to win a national championship at 3 different colleges and win multiple national championships at least one of them, and maybe even 2 of them, that would have to make you by far the greatest college football coach of all time.
Now Saban,
of all time.
Now Saban has said he's too old to start over. You can take that with a grain of salt as well.
But you know what it is? When you start over at Texas, it's not like starting over at, I don't know, pick your university.
No, absolutely.
Now, starting over at Texas, they're one of the 5 biggest and most prestigious college football programs in America.
Can't argue with
in
that.
The heart of the biggest high school football state in America. All you do is sit there, kind of like he does with Alabama now.
Right.
There's no starting over. Alabama has transcended a program as they were, and Alabama has some decent high school football. It was work to turn around Alabama and rescue them from the Mike Shula era. And it was work to rescue LSU from the Jerry DiNardo era.
Right.
It ain't going to be near as much work to rescue Texas from the Mac Brown era.
Why leave Alabama? I mean, why?
What's left to prove?
He could break
and who wants to deal with SEC pressure? You know, if all of a sudden they don't win a national championship this year and next year, all of a sudden, Nick Saban, they're going to be grumbling about Saban.
He's going to have that pressure at Texas, too. He's going to have it immediately to win there at Texas. Immediately, they're going to want instant results there.
Yeah, but if he gets Texas to a BCS bowl, he's ahead of Mac Brown now.
Maybe.
It's different kind of pressure. You know, in the SEC, if you're Alabama and you don't win a national championship every year, you're disappointed.
What about his statement about being too old to start over? You take that with a grain of salt?
I do, just because starting over at Texas is not like starting over at, almost any other university in America. It's a lot easier.
See, to me,
for all the reasons that we just talked about.
Personally, I want to see Nick Saban stay at Alabama.
Okay. I'm shocked at how long he stayed anywhere. He does have ants in his pants.
Well, that's true. I want Coach O to get the USC job. I'd be disappointed if it was anybody else.
So keep score of what we said as far as things that may or may not happen.
Right.
And let's see who's right more, and then we crow about it next year.
There you go. Gotcha. All right. So without further ado,
And we're good at ado.
Let's get to the games. Let's start with the Thursday night, Thanksgiving night game. Ole Miss at Mississippi State, the Egg Bowl.
You're going to need the second TV on Thanksgiving night. Because you got Pittsburgh, Baltimore as your NFL game on Sunday night.
Which is a big game, by the way.
On NBC. And then you got the Egg Bowl. You got to watch the Egg Bowl.
Ole Miss 7-4. Mississippi State 5-6. They need this game to get to a bowl.
Bowl eligible. Right?
They play for the Golden Egg.
The Egg Bowl.
Right.
They call it the Egg Bowl.
This is the 110th meeting. They've been playing since 1901.
I was young then.
Exactly. Ole Miss leads the series 61-42-6. Ole Miss won last year in the Grove, your favorite place. Ole Miss is a 2.5-point favorite here on the road. I am taking Ole Miss. The Mississippi State quarterback is questionable. Ole Miss has better players.
He's questionable whether he plays or not.
Exactly. Ole Miss has better players. They're out recruiting Mississippi State. I think Ole Miss is better on the field. I know it's a big rivalry. I know the cowbells will be ringing. It's only 2.5 points. Mississippi State has not beaten anyone this year. Ole Miss does have a win against LSU. I think Ole Miss has the better athletes. Yes, they are young. Yes, they are inexperienced. Some of the games they weren't ready for prime time. They have enough to handle Mississippi State even on the road. I like Ole Miss -2.5 against State.
Couldn't agree with you more. And you talk about freshmen, because you talk about the fact that Ole Miss is young. Freshmen aren't freshmen by game 11.
True, you're right about that.
Or game 12 in this case.
Right.
And talent level, there's a big talent divide between Ole Miss right now and Mississippi State. Coach Freeze is doing one of the best recruiting jobs in America.
Absolutely.
And those Ole Miss recruiting classes are now top 5 in America recruiting class.
Excellent.
The talent, Ole Miss is loaded with talent. We thought this year would be a good year with some ups and downs along the way. I believe they could be a top 10 team next year.
Yes, I think so.
You know,
too.
this year, they're right about where we thought they'd be. They've had a couple of losses that you didn't think they would necessarily have, and they've had a couple of very good wins. You mentioned the LSU win, the Texas win,
Absolutely.
which now looks like a much better win than it did earlier.
And that was
in the
on
year.
the road, too.
That was in Austin.
Right.
So they've had a couple of good wins. As you said, Mississippi State has beaten nobody, and I think they have one SEC win all year.
I think that was against Arkansas in overtime, and Arkansas is horrendous.
So that kind of shows you where these teams are. I know this is in Starksville. I know it's a rivalry game. Ole Miss is just flat out better. I like Ole Miss rather comfortably in this one.
I agree 100%. So we like Ole Miss on Thanksgiving night, -2.5 against Mississippi State. Pick number 2, we go to Friday. Now, I'm putting this game in the rivalry list because...
It's become a rivalry because it's on every Friday afternoon
Right.
at 2:30 Eastern on CBS, even though that this is not an old rivalry and only pretty much dates back to Arkansas's inclusion in the SEC, which is only about 20 years.
I was online, here we go again with me meeting people. I was online at the electronics store, Best Buy. A guy had an...
By the way, they owe you for the commercial now.
Right.
Unnamed
The guy in front of me has an Arkansas hat on. Of course, you know I got to say something. Are you an Arkansas fan? Absolutely.
And you know what the funny thing is?
Right.
People would say to you, well, that's a dumb question. He's wearing that. No, you don't know. We run into so many people who now just... Well, I buy I buy hats because I like what they look like. They don't even care about the team that's on.
You don't know how many times I've asked people, "Oh, you're a fan of this?"
No, I just like the colors.
No, I got this present from like my nephew. Oh no,
so why you wearing it?
Exactly. So many times. This guy happened to be an Arkansas fan from Arkansas.
Up here in New York.
Yes, we got to talking, and we talked about rivalries.
Did he invite us down to Fayetteville?
I said Little Rock, actually.
Oh, okay.
And he was saying how Arkansas really doesn't have a rival. They really don't have one.
Well, there's nobody in state.
Right. They don't have a...
Who are they going to play?
They don't
University
have
of Arkansas, Little Rock.
Right. They don't have a true rival, even going back to the days when they were not in the SEC.
When they were in the Southwest Conference, they didn't have a rival. It was just... The rivalry was just the conference, usually Texas.
Right, and Texas obviously doesn't consider Arkansas their main rival.
Nope.
So what this guy told me is, he goes, we've been trying with LSU. We always play the day after Thanksgiving. But LSU's big rival is, of course, Alabama. LSU does not view Arkansas as their main rival. But
it's become a rivalry game, a secondary rivalry for them.
Right, and they play every year the day after Thanksgiving. They switch sites. They play 1 year at LSU. The years they play in Arkansas, they don't play in Fayetteville.
They play in Little Rock.
They play in Little Rock.
That happens. I understand.
They play in Little Rock. So this guy told me, show some love for Arkansas. We
will.
Show some love for them. We're trying to build a rivalry with LSU. Arkansas has had their moments in this. I tried to tell him, I said, you guys have had some moments in this rivalry.
Right.
You've beaten LSU.
And it does, and I'm right, it does go back to when Arkansas joined the Southeastern Conference and left the, what was decaying Southwestern Conference.
Right. And LSU, of course, their rival is Alabama. LSU's in-state rival would be Tulane. If Tulane could ever do anything, they used to play all the time. They don't play as much anymore. I did hear they are playing in a few years in the Superdome, which will be all LSU fans.
Right, and so it'll be 80,000 LSU fans and 13 Tulane fans.
Right, so LSU does not view Arkansas as their main rival.
So for Arkansas, it's their rivalry. We consider it a rivalry game because we've noticed over the last 20 years, every Friday, 2:30 Eastern Time on CBS. Here we go.
Every single time. All right, Arkansas having a miserable season, 3-8. Let's give the coach a few years to get his players in there. He was a very good coach at Wisconsin, although I did not like his antics running up the score in the Big Ten. He did that a lot. I did not like that.
He ain't running up the score this year.
Not running the score
this year. That's for sure.
Arkansas is 3-8. LSU is 8-3. They're ranked 15. Had a very nice win last week. Looked very good last week.
They did.
They play for the Golden Boot in this series.
Okay, so there is something.
There is something here. There's a little trophy. LSU leads the series 36-20-2.
Wow, so it's longer than I thought. This actually predates. I learned something.
No, absolutely.
This actually predates Arkansas leaving the Southwest Conference. So this rivalry goes back more years than I knew.
Like I said, Arkansas has had a moment or two in this series where they've beaten LSU and knocked them out of title contention and stuff. So Arkansas
and then they were the better program during like the Jerry DiNardo LSU years, so they probably won a bunch of those games as well.
We showed a little love for Arkansas.
It ends here.
That's where it ends. LSU is a 24-point favorite in Death Valley, one of my favorite stadiums of all time.
Luckily for Arkansas, it's an afternoon contest.
Right.
That'll help a little bit.
LSU looked very good last week. I liked what I saw from them.
I was impressed by their defense. The offense, I thought, is a given.
Finally.
Their defense really limiting Texas A&M and Johnny Manziel. That's an impressive effort by that LSU defense.
And I like to see that because when I think of LSU, I think defense. Even though I'm watching the NFL, I'm like, that guy went to LSU. Guys on the Cardinals, Arizona, that guy went to LSU. I love LSU when they have a good, solid defense. So I want them to get back to that. LSU is a 24-point favorite. They are going to bomb Arkansas. I think this game is over early. I think it's over in the first quarter. I think it is a complete blowout. I see LSU winning this game like 49-10.
Sorry,
like
Hogs.
Right.
We'd love to give you some love. We'll give Brett Bielema a chance down there.
Right.
But as far as this game, me and you are in lockstep here.
Yeah.
I find little chance that Arkansas can compete.
No, so we gave a little love to Arkansas, but it had
a history lesson as well.
Right, it had to end abruptly. He did invite us down to Little Rock if we ever want to go down there. We have got a lot of invites, by the way. We're going down, we're going to Oregon, we're going to Little Rock, we're going all over the place.
I love it, I'm in. I love to travel. There are some sites that I haven't seen that I'd love to see. Whether they're on the bucket list or not, there are some great places for college football. A lot of them people know about. A lot of them a lot of people don't think of. And Fayetteville/Little Rock is, it's kind of the same site, but it's not. You know what I mean.
Right, and they used to have a very good basketball program as well, Arkansas. Remember in the Bill Clinton years, and they won the national title. And
Nolan Richardson.
Right, maybe they get the basketball program going in the right direction.
They had some moments under Mike Anderson as well before he moved on to Missouri.
They have great facilities down there. Their basketball arena is top-notch.
Yes.
I mean, Fayetteville...
They have great facilities. I mean, the only programs in the SEC lagging behind in facilities are the two Mississippi programs. They do suffer from some facility
Maybe Vanderbilt's football stadium. Their basketball stadium is very unique. I like it's very unique.
The floor, yeah.
But
so
I hear where you're coming from. All right, so we're in agreement, the first two picks.
Absolutely.
Let's stay on Friday. We're still in Friday here. The Apple Cup. We have Washington State at Washington.
Fight for Washington State.
Absolutely. They have been playing since 1900. This is the 106th meeting. That's a lot. 106. Washington leads 67-32-6. So Washington has dominated this series. State actually won last year, though.
Yep.
Washington is a 14.5-point favorite. Now, we don't know about the quarterback, but I'll tell you what. He didn't play last week, and they scored almost 70 points against. Was that Oregon State they put up almost 70 against last week?
I believe so.
I think it was 69 they put up. I mean,
Yes.
they bombed Oregon State without the quarterback. So I think either way, Washington in Seattle with another stadium I love.
Yes.
How good is that? How good is Husky Stadium?
And it's a tough place to play. Mike Leach is doing a great job up in Pullman, turning around that Washington State program. And they've had some moments within the conference, and they're having a nice year. I believe they're 6-5 on the year.
6-5, Washington 7-4.
Right. So they're really making strides up in Pullman. I don't think they're where Washington is. And even without Keith Price, it doesn't seem that offense suffered a setback at all. I'm kind of in lockstep with you. I like Washington. I do think this game is going to be closer than a lot of people think.
So you may take the 14.5.
I'm going to take the 14.5. I think Washington State will cover.
Mike Leach can coach. He's another guy. Rubs people the wrong way.
But he can coach.
He can coach. I mean, he definitely can coach. And he can recruit, I think. So I think he's a good, solid choice for Washington
They're
State.
going to do some good things in Pullman in a not-too-distant future. I think it starts here by keeping the Apple Cup competitive.
All right, so we're in a little bit of a disagreement there. It's funny. Washington, the Huskies, their stadium, and the Seattle Seahawks, are there any louder places in the country? Something is going on out there. I mean, the way they construct the stadium and the fans themselves, or a combination of both, they have some of the loudest fans.
Absolutely.
I mean, Seattle, it's just, and they have a big game, the Seahawks, by the way, against the Saints on Monday night.
Huge game, and that's exciting. And, I think that's going to be a real test for both teams to kind of show you exactly where they are, records aside, this late in the NFL season.
You know what I noticed about Seattle? Their fans are hungry for a title. Seahawks have never won a Super Bowl. I mean, they lost the Sonics.
It's been years.
Mariners have never won a World Series.
It's been years since the Washington Huskies have won a national championship.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're going back to the Don James era.
So I noticed that they have a very hungry fan base, which is why they're so rabid in these games.
Rabid,
they
loud,
are really
aggressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's going to be fun. I always like the Apple Cup, and I'll keep an eye on that on
All right, so you will
Friday
take Washington State with the points, but you don't think they're going to win.
I don't think they're going to win outright, but I will take the number.
All right, we're staying on Friday here. We're still on Friday. We haven't even gotten to Saturday
I
yet.
love it. I love it.
Friday, the Civil War.
Also, one of my favorite rivalries.
Oregon State at number 12, Oregon in Eugene. Oregon State is 6-5. Oregon is a disappointing 9-2, by the way.
Well, both of these teams are headed in the wrong direction. Oregon's lost 2 straight, and you talked about the loss to Stanford where they got dominated.
They were embarrassed.
Right. They got pushed around and they got beat up physically.
I think
so. Then you come out the following week against a Rich Rodriguez Arizona team. That's a mirror image of what you do. Rich Rodriguez being one of the inventors of the spread offense in college football. And what do? You get run all over by Arizona.
Oregon should be embarrassed by their performance.
They really should be.
I mean, I could see if they lost these games to Stanford and
Arizona's not there yet. They're on their way, but they're not there yet. It's one thing when you get beat by Stanford because of styles making fights. Well, this is like staring in a mirror and getting beat by that style.
Joe,
look at what Oregon did to Arizona State. And that's the better carbon copy of them within the conference. And they got their doors blown off by Arizona.
Where is their heart? They look lifeless. I mean, we know
you said it before. They don't care about the Rose Bowl. Well, here's the good news. They're not going to be in it.
I know they give up a lot of points. Where is this offense? They can't score. They can't score against Arizona. Arizona gives up points to everyone.
Well, here might be their saving grace in this game. Oregon State's going in the wrong direction.
They've gotten blown out a bunch of times as well. Let me give you a little history here first. This is the 117th meeting since 1894.
I wasn't even born for that.
There's a lot of history here. Oregon leads the series 60-46-10. Oregon has won 5 straight. I mean, like you said, Oregon has lost to Stanford and Arizona this year. Oregon State got bombed at home by Washington without Price, by the way. That's scary.
It's a bad loss.
As bad as Oregon's looked, they're favored by 21. Now, one thing I've been consistent with Oregon is I always pick them in Eugene. They love to pour it on in Eugene. Both of their losses were on the road. I think here, Both teams going in the opposite direction. I think Oregon back home in Eugene against Oregon State. I think Oregon will get rolling in this game. I think Oregon will put up their usual 56 points against a mediocre, okay team. Oregon rolls in this game. They cover the 21. I like Oregon 56 to 21, something like that.
I'm kind of in lockstep with you here because as bad as Oregon's been the last couple of weeks, Oregon State's been worse the last 4 weeks or 3 weeks.
Absolutely.
You know, both of these teams are on a major skid. You think Oregon's skid is bad. Oregon State's skid is worse.
Oh, absolutely.
So with that being said, it's in Eugene. Oregon's got the better talent. They're the better team. The only thing that can keep Oregon State in there is the quarterback.
Yes.
That quarterback can put up big numbers. He's the only person that can keep Oregon State in this game. I don't think it happens. I, like you, think Oregon rolls in Eugene.
I would hope so. Imagine if they ever lost this game at home to Oregon State.
Well, then you can take them out of the Holiday Bowl pool, too.
Yeah, they should not even go to a bowl game. Just stay at home. I mean, if you drop this game at home to Oregon State, who can't beat anyone right now, they have to come out here, Oregon, and show something. I think they will. Eugene is always, a place where they roll up the score. I think they're going to be all right in this game.
I agree.
I'm still overall very disappointed in Oregon.
I know you're not bullish right now on the Oregon Ducks.
I am so disappointed in them.
One I'm really disappointed in, I understand being disappointed. I'm very disappointed in the Oregon State Beavers. After losing to Eastern Washington to open the season,
they got on
a bit of a roll. They had a couple of good wins. They crept into the top 25. I thought they had a chance to build some momentum, and I've been very disappointed with them down the stretch.
See, their expectations weren't as high as Oregon.
Yeah.
So
I understand their tempered expectations in Corvallis. I get it.
But I understand what you're saying. They have gotten blown out way too much for my liking. I mean, it's one thing if you lose to Washington, you don't give up 70 points in your building without the starting quarterback.
Price, yeah.
So we're in agreement. Oregon rolls in Eugene. All right, we have finally gotten to Saturday.
We've
gotten to Saturday.
I don't care. I can do this until Saturday.
A game I didn't think I'd be talking about, in football anyway. Basketball, yes. The battle for
Dean Smith versus Coach K.
The battle for Tobacco Road.
I should say Roy Williams versus Coach K.
Number 24 Duke at North Carolina. And we're talking football here. Duke 9-2. UNC 6-5. And by the way, North Carolina has quietly won 5 in a row.
And it's very quiet. Because if you hadn't told me that they had won 5 in a row, I wouldn't know it.
No, very quietly.
I don't know who they beat.
Yeah, they've beaten Pitt. I think they beat Pitt the week after Pitt beat Notre Dame. They haven't beat any Goliaths, but they have won 5 in a row. Now remember, Duke wins. They go to the ACC championship game against Florida State.
They get the right to get blown out by Florida State.
There is a lot on the line here. I mean, Duke is in the deep end of the pool here.
10-win Duke.
Yes.
Think about that. They win this game, they're 10-win Duke. They're going to get blown out by Florida State in the ACC championship game if that's how it goes down. I mean blown out. They're just two different talent levels. But a 10-win Duke team will go to a very nice bowl and will represent themselves well because it's not going to be a BCS bowl. They'll go to a nice bowl and represent themselves well and get Duke football on major national television. Something that it's not on a lot.
The coach has done a tremendous job with this team. I mean, as good a job as anyone in college football.
Coach Cutcliffe is a terrific coach.
Let me give you a little history. They've been playing this game since 1888. North Carolina leads the series 40-21-1. Duke won last year.
A lot of gaps in that series because they've been playing since 1888.
Right, they haven't played.
And they've only played 62 games.
Right, so they haven't played every single year. Duke won last year in Durham. As you know, these schools are only 8 miles apart. North Carolina is a 5.5-point favorite here because they've won 5 in a row and because they're home. I'm jumping all over Duke here with the points. This is very disrespectful to Duke. Duke is 9-2. Why is North Carolina a 5.5-point choice here? I'll take Duke with the points. I think Duke's going to win this game outright, go to the ACC championship game in Charlotte. Duke plus 5.5 over UNC.
I'm inclined to agree with you, and I have little doubt that Duke is going to topple UNC, go to 10-2, go to the ACC championship game, and get blown out by Florida State. I mean, I'm sorry, but I still think it's a great story. Bowl eligible 2 years in a row with Duke, 10-win Duke, go to a nice New Year's Day type bowl representing the ACC. That's a great story for the Duke Blue Devils. and something they can build upon in recruiting for their subsequent recruiting classes, and maybe really build a quality long-term football program at Duke.
Absolutely. So we are in agreement. Duke with the points here.
Absolutely.
I think this is a very disrespectful spread for Duke.
I don't know about disrespectful, but I don't see it. Having seen Duke quite a bit and some of the impressive efforts that they've put up,
They're 9-2.
I don't know about that.
They're 9-2. I mean, come on, this spread should not be 5.5. I'm jumping all over Duke. You agree with me there. Okay, let's go to two disappointing teams, but a big rivalry nonetheless. Let's go down to Virginia. Virginia Tech, who is 7-4, and I think disappointing, and has been disappointing for the last few years.
They're no longer relevant. Let's be blunt about it.
Exactly. At Virginia, who is 2-9.
That's about what I expected.
2-9. I mean, Virginia can't win more than 2 games. I mean, come
No.
on.
No, they can't. You ask, I'm answering. No.
These two teams have been playing since 1895. Vatech leads the series 52-37-5. They play for the Commonwealth Cup.
Yes, that I'm familiar with.
Virginia Tech has won the last 9. Make it 10. Virginia Tech is 13-point favorites on the road. I don't love Virginia Tech, but I don't love Virginia either. I will take Virginia Tech here to win 10 in a row over Virginia rather easily as well. Virginia is an awful football team.
Right. Now, you're right about this matchup. I mean, it's been one-sided for the last number of years. Again, Vatech disappoints both of us. You know,
Absolutely.
we've talked about, every year they come in ranked.
And I like Frank Beamer.
Right.
I like him.
But the program is not where it needs to be. They've taken mighty steps back. And I don't know if it's time for Frank Beamer to go or what, but he did rescue Vatech from football irrelevance.
Built a nice
And
program.
he built a very nice program in Blacksburg. But they've taken mighty steps back. When they play anybody good at a conference, like they schedule every year in a non-conference schedule, they get blown out. Then they lose a couple of games in conference. They are several steps behind Florida State and Clemson,
Not even close.
and a whole bunch of other teams in that conference. So, to me, that game isn't what it used to be. But Vatech is in a different class than Virginia.
And Virginia, I don't see any hope for them. I mean, what do you do if you're Virginia?
It's not exactly a storied football past.
No, I mean, they had their moments in basketball. Of course, they had Ralph Sampson, but that's going back a while. They have a decent team this year, I think.
Bunch of smart kids there and beautiful grounds.
Absolutely, but yeah, this is...
And nice looking colors.
No, absolutely. So we're in agreement. Vatech should roll in
Easy,
this game,
easy,
the Commonwealth Cup.
Yes.
There we go. All right, let's go down to Georgia for our next rivalry. This game is called Clean, Good Old-Fashioned Hate. That's what they call this rivalry.
Okay.
Georgia at 7-4, and now they are without Murray, who is out, hurt his knee. He's
Torn ACL, out for the rest of this year, and it should be interesting what kind of effect that's going to have on his NFL draft stock.
Absolutely. Georgia at 7-4, a disappointing 7-4.
Save that for the draft preview show.
Right. Georgia's been very disappointing this year, ravaged by injuries. At Georgia Tech in Atlanta, Georgia Tech is also 7-4. Now, I don't think they're very good either. I mean, they are 7-4. They're okay. Haven't beat any great teams. I mean, they did beat Duke this year. That was early in the season, though. I don't consider Georgia...
Well, the good news for Georgia Tech, they're not playing a great team, so they may have a chance.
Exactly. They've been playing this game since 1893. Georgia leads the series 63-40-5. Georgia has won the last 4. As you mentioned, Murray out for the year, so they're going with the backup quarterback who did get a lot of playing time last week against Kentucky. Actually looked pretty good, but that was against Kentucky. Georgia
basketball.
Georgia this year is 1-3 on the road, by the way, and they could be 0-4. They should have lost to Tennessee.
Yes, they should have.
Georgia is a 3.5-point favorite here on the road in Atlanta. I don't love Georgia, but I like Georgia Tech even less. Even with the backup quarterback,
all right,
I'm going to take Georgia. I say they still score some points. I don't like Georgia Tech's defense at all. They give up a boatload of points.
There's not much to like about it. That's why you don't like it.
They give up a ton of points, especially to better teams. I mean, they have given up a ton of points this year, Georgia Tech. I think Georgia's offense carries the day here. They're going to give up some points here. I think it's a very high-scoring game. I think Georgia wins this game. I'm going to say 49-35 in a shootout. I'll take Georgia minus 3.5 over Georgia Tech.
I'm going to go the other way for a couple of reasons. Tech's at home, number one. Number two, Georgia only has a week to prepare a banged-up defense for the traditional triple option.
Which you love, by the way.
And the option is assignment football at its highest. And when you only have a week to prepare for it, it is very daunting for a lot of defenses to prepare for that assignment football. The triple option will pose some very unique problems for that Georgia Bulldogs defense. And I think as a result, Georgia Tech will be able to control tempo, score. The backup quarterback's going to make a mistake or two in this game, even to the lousy Georgia Tech defense. And I think that's enough to allow not only Georgia Tech to cover this number, but to win outright.
See, I agree with you. I think Georgia Tech is going to score some points, but I disagree with you. I think Georgia is going to score more points.
Okay, and I understand. Just be on the lookout for the assignment football that needs to be played by that Georgia defense to really be underwhelming. And look for Georgia Tech to run that football very well for a lot of yardage and finish their drives and score points.
I also like taking SEC over ACC.
I know you do, and that makes sense.
I also like that aspect of the game as well.
But give it some thought as far as with the injuries and what Georgia's being asked to prepare for with only 1 week to prepare for.
I could definitely.
I think that's a real factor.
I could definitely see you taking Georgia Tech. I went back and forth on this game, but I'll take SEC over ACC. There we go. So we disagree on that.
It's a harbinger of things to come.
There we go. All right, next game. The duel in the desert, which you mentioned off the air before, of course. Arizona, who is 7-4, at Arizona State, who's all the way up to 13 in the rankings. Arizona State 9-2. Although I think they should have another loss. I think they should have lost the game to Wisconsin.
You can't tack the loss on top of it. They're 9-2. You can't take it away from them.
They've been playing since 1899. Arizona leads this series. I was a little surprised about that. 47-38-1. Arizona State won last year in Tucson. The last 4 meetings, the road team has won, believe it or not.
That's interesting.
Arizona State is a 12-point favorite. Now, I've been consistent with Arizona State as well.
You don't like them?
I don't like them, especially on the road. They're not on the road here. They can be a bully team at home. They can handle lesser teams at home. They can run it up at home. They're home here. I don't think Arizona is quite ready yet. They're a decent team. They're not an upper echelon team. I think at home in the desert, Arizona State will score more points than Arizona. I think both teams are going to score here. I think this could be another 49-35 game, but I see State winning and covering the 12 points.
I'm inclined to agree with you. Styles make fights. These are both up-tempo, high-octane offenses. It's a track meet.
Yes.
Unfortunately, if you're Arizona, you have the Swedish track team, and if you're Arizona State, you have the Jamaican track team.
Right, exactly.
And Usain Bolt's running for them, and you've got Sven, whatever his name is, running for you.
Right.
And I think that kind of tells the story here. I think the style of play of both teams is similar. The coaches are both very good. I love Todd Graham. I think he's a terrific football coach. I just think right now Arizona State has more horses.
No, I absolutely agree, especially...
And by the way, quietly, they have one of the best quarterbacks in America. Nobody talks
about. And they have a nice home field advantage there in Tempe. The fans get really excited.
Well, they party 7 days a week at Tempe.
No, absolutely.
So by the time that game comes up on Saturday night, they'll be all lick it up.
I remember when the Arizona Cardinals of the NFL played there. Wasn't the same enthusiasm as they had for Arizona State there. It's more of a college-type environment.
That's one of those college towns.
Right, exactly. So I agree with you. Arizona State wins the duel in the desert, and they do it by, I say, 14 points. You want to give me a number on this?
55-28.
Get your calculator out is what you're saying. A lot of points being scored.
Oh, yeah. It's going to look like an arena football.
So there we go. We are in agreement there. All right, the next rivalry. This is where you come in here. Your Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who are, by the way, back in the top 25, I see. Number 25, Notre Dame, at number 18, Stanford. This game was first played in 1925. Notre Dame leads the series 18-9. Not a lot of games here, but they have...
Well, if you notice something about Notre Dame, you have a bunch of traditional rivalries that you play every year that really that they don't miss. And then you have a bunch of rivalries that are reoccurring.
Right.
Ohio State, Michigan State, Stanford.
Right.
And Allen. The ones that are the mainstay rivalries are Navy.
Right.
Purdue.
Right.
And I think those are the main two.
You wouldn't say USC.
And USC. No, of course, USC.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
There we go.
Those are the main three.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are always in there.
Right.
Without interruption. The others are rotating rivalries, as it were.
Now, last year, if you remember, in South Bend, Notre Dame won 20-13 in overtime. Controversy at the goal line.
Yes, I remember
Stanford
very well.
at the goal line was going in. They get stopped. They blow the whistle. The back ends up going into the end zone after the whistle blows. They say it was over the place.
Forward progress, baby.
Notre Dame heads over to the national title game as Stanford is screaming to the officials. So there was controversy last year.
You stay here and scream. We're going to the national title game.
Exactly. Now, Stanford this year lost at Utah and lost at USC. Not the same team on the road.
No, they're not.
But they are on the farm this week. Stanford is a 14-point favorite at home. They are a much, much, much better team at home. And I think they have way too much for Notre Dame. And Notre Dame has some quality wins on their schedule now.
Right.
Beat Michigan State. Beat USC. Beat Arizona State.
It's funny when you beat teams. They look like quality wins now. But were they quality wins then? When you beat USC, they couldn't score.
Right.
Right? When you beat Arizona State, it was when they went into that mini skid.
Right.
And when you beat, what was the other quality win we were mentioning?
I said Michigan State.
Michigan State.
Yeah.
And when you beat Michigan State, they hadn't found any offense.
No, they couldn't score at all.
Right. So there turned out to be quality wins, but when you played those teams, they weren't very good.
Right.
So with that being said, they're nice wins. And they look good if you're trying to put together a resume, if you're undefeated. Say, did you play enough teams to represent the national title game? They would in that case. As far as trying to forecast this matchup, I don't know how much they help.
All I have to say about Notre Dame is this. They lost at Pitt. There is no way they're winning on the farm in Stanford. Stanford is too
Do they
much.
not struggle with the Navy as well?
Stanford is not losing at home to Notre Dame. And I am giving the 14 points. I say Stanford lays it on Notre Dame. Too physical, too much in their building. Stanford rolls over your Irish.
Unfortunately, you're probably right. And I'm going to take Stanford in this one because while Tommy Rees has done a pretty good job of keeping Notre Dame respectable, he's not Everett Golston.
Right.
And that's who they wanted as their quarterback. And that set everything back from Jump Street. And then when you look at it, Notre Dame is a physical team. Stanford's more physical. What Notre Dame doesn't have is the elite athletes this year that they had last year. They lost a lot of guys to graduation and moving on to the next level. This is not anywhere close to that Notre Dame team that went to the national title. Stanford's pretty good, and they're real good at home, and they're too good for Notre Dame. So I'm inclined to agree with you. I like Stanford to win this one by about 17.
And you think Notre Dame rebounds next year?
I do. I really believe that. I think that they'll have much better athletes all around the football field. They'll get their quarterback back, and I think they'll be ready to go, and I think they have the potential to be a national title contender.
Will you be heading to South Bend next year?
You know what? Probably.
There you go. I talked you into it. There you go.
It's not hard to talk me into going back to South Bend.
We are in agreement. Stanford rolls in this game.
Yeah, we are.
All right. The next game is kind of the new guys in the SEC. We have number 19 Texas A&M at number 15 Missouri, and this game has a lot of.
Or as they call it, Missouri.
Exactly. Texas A&M 8-3. They were bombed by LSU last week. Missouri 10.
And they didn't score any points.
Right. Missouri 10.
They can't score 17 points and beat anybody.
Missouri 10-1. They had that one bad quarter against South Carolina, or else they'd be playing for the national title. Maybe they'd be playing for the national title. If they win, they get to the SEC title game here. Franklin is back at quarterback. Remember, they didn't have him when they played South Carolina. That was with the backup, who we do like. We do like him, but it was still the backup quarterback. Missouri is
and James Franklin's been back for a while now.
Missouri is a 4.5-point favorite at home. I don't love Texas A&M as much as you do.
Right.
I don't love the coach as much as you do. They're, I would say, pretty good. The coach, I would say, is good. The team's pretty good. Manziel this year, he's had some bad games.
Yes, he has.
I mean, he gets a lot of hype, Manziel. He was awful.
He's also going to leave.
Right. He was awful last week against LSU. I think the spread is too low. Texas A&M cannot stop anyone, and I do not take teams that can't stop anyone on the road, especially against a good Missouri team with that stable of receivers and all those playmakers.
They're all tall, and they're all big, and they're all fast.
With those playmakers, you saw what they did against Ole Miss last week. Throw the ball up and go get it. I think Missouri is way too much for A&M. A&M's defense is Swiss cheese. I have no problem taking Missouri here, -4.5. I would take Missouri if the spread was 14.5. Missouri rolls in this game.
Kind of inclined to agree with you, and you've talked about my love for Kevin Sumlin and my love for Johnny Football. With that being said,
Right.
I really like this Missouri Tigers team.
Very good team.
You know, James Franklin back at quarterback, that helps a lot. I love that stable of wide receivers. One's bigger and faster than the other. Henry Josie is a real good running back.
Let me cut you off here.
Sure.
Where was everyone in the preseason with all their magazines?
I wasn't there
talking
either.
about Missouri.
I wasn't
knew
there
how good
either.
This team was?
I wasn't there either. But the other part that we haven't talked about yet, you've talked a lot about their offense. Good offensive line. Henry Josie's a real good running back. That defense is underrated. It's physical. It's athletic. I love that physical front line of that Missouri defense. And I think when it comes down to it, you've got two good units. Am I going to tell you the Missouri offense is as good as Texas A&M's? Probably not. They're close. But defensively, these two teams are light years apart. It's at home. I don't see how Texas A&M stands up for 4 quarters against Missouri, who can taste a chance to go to the SEC title game. I like Missouri an awful lot in this one, and I think they win by about 3 touchdowns.
It is still shocking to me that Missouri was up 17-0 at home against South Carolina and let that game slip away. And then even after regulation, they were up in overtime, and South Carolina had a 4th and 15?
Yeah.
And tied the game up, and then Missouri missed that little
I
chip
remember
field goal.
I remember coming back the next week, and we're doing the show, and you're apoplectic over it.
And then Missouri missed that little chip
shot field
goal. I mean, I don't know how any of that happened.
Otherwise, they'd be playing this game, and they'd be ready to be opposite Alabama, and the winner of that SEC title game would be the team going to the national championship.
So we're in
Or
agreement.
one of the two, anyway.
Missouri rolls over the Aggies.
Yes, we are.
In Columbia, and that's Columbia, Missouri, of
Not
course.
Columbia, South Carolina. We'll get to them in a minute.
All right, let's get to our next rivalry game, another game I love, the Battle for L.A.
Fitting name.
Right. Number 22 UCLA at 8-3. At number 23 USC. USC is 9-3, believe it or not. I mean, USC has won 5 in a row. They play for the Victory Bell. They're only 12 miles apart. They're almost as close as Duke, North Carolina.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very close. USC leads the series 46-29-7. This is the 83rd meeting. They've been playing since 1929. UCLA won last year in the Rose Bowl. As I talked about before, I think the coach of USC deserves to get the job. I think USC, as quickly as they lost LA, they're going to get it back.
Wow.
USC is a 3.5-point favorite here in the Coliseum. I love this game. I love the colors. In the Coliseum, you're going to see the red of USC, and then you're going to see a little powder blue, the UCLA fans. I love the color scheme. Even when they play in the Rose Bowl, you got all the blue and then the little red section in there. Love the color scheme. Love the game. One of my favorite games. Throw out the record. USC is going to take back Los Angeles. It starts right here. They're on a roll. They will not be stopped by UCLA, who, by the way, lost at home to Arizona State last week. USC is going to be able to score and move the ball against UCLA. I haven't been that impressed with UCLA since the beginning of the season.
They really have struggled the last third of the season. Brett Hundley has taken major steps back. You know, you talk about losing to Arizona State. They were getting blown out most of that game, especially in the first half. This thing looked over.
Right.
Arizona State let them up off the deck. UCLA got back into it, but ultimately came up short. And I'm kind of in lockstep with you here. USC's red hot and playing some of the best football in America right now. They're at home. I don't think we can say the same thing about UCLA right now.
No.
They're not playing some of the best football
They are
in America.
not. They were playing better at the beginning of the season. USC is on absolute fire now. And I want to see, after USC wins this game, Coach O go up there and take that sword and start waving around like he did the last time with the band and all that kind of stuff. And maybe we'll get another storming of the field at USC. This could be the second one this year. Did you ever think when Kiffin was there, you get 2 stormings of the field in the same season?
Absolutely
Never
not.
saw it coming.
But I'm in lockstep with you. I think the number. I think it's going to be a close game. I really do. I believe it's going to be a close game.
I don't think it'll be a blowout.
I don't think the number's out of whack. But I think USC will win this by 7 or 10
And you
points.
are wearing UCLA blue, but you're still going with USC red.
That's correct.
There you go. And I love this game personally. Do you like this game as much as I do?
I really do.
Is this
one of my favorites.
Is this a game you would ever go to? Would you go to?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, would you rather go to? I know what you're going to say. Would you rather go to the Rose Bowl or the Coliseum?
I don't care.
I thought you'd say the Rose Bowl for sure. Have you been to the Rose Bowl game?
I've been to the Rose Bowl. I've been to the Rose Bowl game, and I've also been to the Rose Bowl for a Super Bowl.
Really? You've been out there twice. How did you like the Rose Bowl?
It's old, but it's great.
Now, have they redone it since you've been there a little bit? Have they
a little bit?
You know,
those two stadiums are both old.
Right.
They have character.
Right.
But
now,
they're old.
Now you went there for who was playing?
The Giants were in the Super Bowl. Remember Giants played the Super Bowl.
Oh my goodness! You've got the best of both worlds with your Giants. And who was the UCLA against who? Oh wait! It was
the Rose Bowl.
And UCLA wasn't in it.
No, you're really taxing me.
Was it Wisconsin against somebody?
I know. I'm not a Wisconsin fan. If I would have
Michigan State, USC,
no, this is
Stanford.
It was Ohio State and somebody. I don't remember.
I asked the tough questions.
You did. I got to go back. I don't remember.
See, folks, he's been to so many games. This guy, he can't even remember. You asked me where I've been. I can tell you probably on one hand where I've been. This guy's been to so many games, he forgets where he's been.
After a while, it's just hard to remember. I was out there. What year was it?
The fans are saying, "Look at this guy. He's been to so many games, he can't even remember where he's been." Well, who's playing?
Hey, you know what? I got to start writing them down now.
Did you actually get into the game? Did you actually?
Oh, yeah,
you did. You weren't just hanging out outside.
I'm not one of those. When I go to a game, I go to a game. And don't get me wrong, I'm not adverse to pounding a couple back.
Right, because you said the Grove when I asked you about the game. You go, well, what game? You went to the game.
One of my standard lines.
Right, but you did end up going into the game.
Absolutely.
How did you like the city of Los Angeles?
It's very wide open, and you have to drive to everything.
It's not like New York.
No. It's very spread out. You got to take a car to everything.
Right.
But
no public transportation for the most part.
Right. I love the climate.
Oh.
I do. I love mild climates.
So do I.
So there's nothing.
I don't like humid weather.
Right. There's nothing like walking around the streets in January and it's 68, 70, 72 degrees.
Right.
Low humidity. Not much rain.
Right.
It's really comfortable. It's really mild.
The climate's to die for.
So I do enjoy it. Again, there's wonderful, like here, there's wonderful places to eat. There's wonderful places to shop.
You, of course, were hanging out with the celebrities, right?
Of course.
You were hanging out with the Kardashians and everybody else.
I'm not a Kardashian fan. I used to find Kim attractive when she was younger.
You weren't hanging out with
I would have made a tape with her.
You weren't hanging out with Jack Nicholson at the Laker game.
No, I mean, I've been to Laker games, but Jack ain't looking for me.
You know what I always found fascinating about the West Coast, and I always think about this during Monday night games that end at like 12:30, 1 o'clock here on the East Coast.
You're fascinated when you're out there on a football Sunday, it's 10 a.m. and you're watching football.
To me, I don't know if they like it out there, and I would love it because
you're done watching football, it's 8 o'clock at night.
You could still have something else to do. You watch some of these, like Sunday night and Monday night, you look up after football, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning. At least, on the West Coast...
You know where it's got to be frustrating, and I don't live out there, but again, if you're a working guy, doing what we do, we're not working guys.
Right.
You can't call us working guys.
No, we're not 9 to 5.
Right, but what happens is, let's say you want to get home and watch the Monday night game. Well, the Monday night game starts at 5:30. You're trying to wolf down dinner in front of the TV, and if you're lucky, you got home for the beginning of the game.
It's that classic line, the grass is always greener. See, to me, I would give that up, but you're right, people out there are like, well, I'd rather get home, get settled, catch the... But then, what about baseball? Some of these Yankee-Red Sox games just go on...
what, the 5-hour, 9-inning playoff game that didn't go to extra innings? That's
right.
And I'm a Yankee fan, but that's unbearable to watch. Why should a 9-inning baseball game in the regular season take 4 hours?
They end at like 1:30 in the morning.
The playoffs, it's worse because it takes 5 hours.
And most people got to
And it's not even like it's 9-8. It's 5-4. And you went 5 hours, and you only went 9 innings.
And most people got to get up at like 6:30. The game's at 1:30. That's why I do not like the Sunday night baseball game starting at 8 o'clock on the East Coast. They make those fans sit there till midnight. Most of these people got to get home and get to work. I just don't understand
Ain't
it
it
at all.
the truth?
So you're right, though. The grass is always greener. They're out there probably complaining. We're over. I'm complaining, saying, I wish I lived out there for the game starting earlier. But they may think oppositely out there.
Now, if they put a team in Aruba, I'd go there.
There you go. Aruba's your style.
Yes, it is.
Let's get to one of my favorite rivalries, and
the Battle of the Palmetto State, baby. I can actually read the notes.
Yeah, and that's not easy to do, by the way, with my writing. I love this game. This is one of my favorite rivalry games. I think this is a very underrated game. It doesn't always have national title implications or stuff like that, but as
rarely in the case of South Carolina.
But as far as just the passion on the field, it takes a backseat to no one.
Yeah.
Number 6 Clemson at 10-1, only lost that drubbing they took at home to Florida State. At South Carolina is 9-2. Believe it or not, South Carolina is ranked 10. As you said,
well, they've quietly moved back up. I mean, again, as much fun as everybody thinks I'm picking on South Carolina, I'm really not. But very quietly, they've gotten some good wins, and they've climbed their way back up the rankings. And again, they're ranked 10th in the country.
Like you said, the Battle of the Palmetto State, they've been playing since 1896. This is the 111th meeting. That's a lot.
They play every year. That's good.
Clemson leads 65-41-4, but South Carolina has won the last 4.
My friend, the Gamecocks fan, is going to be watching.
Who is not feeling well, by the way. Last time I heard from him, he had food poisoning. By the way,
oh gee, we do send our best. Please get well soon. I had food poisoning once, bad Chinese food.
I had it a couple times,
but not the minor case where I just don't feel good. I had the real severe case.
So
if you've got that, man, my heart goes out to you. Feel well, get better soon. Hopefully, we can bring you some solace today.
There we go. This rivalry has a lot of bad blood. Let me take you back to 2004. Remember when Lou Holtz was coaching South Carolina?
Yes, I do.
They had that huge brawl on the field.
Yes.
Remember that? I mean, a huge brawl. It was so bad that both teams forfeited their bowl appearance that year.
I do remember that.
So there's a lot of bad blood in this series. South Carolina, and this spread might shock you, is a 5.5-point favorite in this game.
Now, I guess 3 of those points, maybe 3.5, are the fact that it's in Columbia. So the other 2 probably is an indication of how well these teams are playing since the midway point in the year. Since South Carolina's most recent loss, they've played very good football. Since Clemson's first and only loss, they've won games but played very average and uninspired football and have shown a very uninspired offense.
Get to your sets before these teams take the field. Because
that's one where you want to watch the pregame
South Carolina comes out to their famous 2001 Space Odyssey, that song they come out for, which I love more than you, and I get into that stuff more than you do. Watch the fans go absolutely berserk. You will fall in love with this game right there before they even kick the ball off. I promise you that.
The only guy I ever cared about coming out to 2001 Space Odyssey is Nature Boy Rick Flag. That's it. Woo! He might even be at the game. He's
South
a North Carolina
guy, is a 5.5-point favorite. I think that's too high. I'm going to take Clemson here. I say this game is close. I say it could go either way. South Carolina's offense, I don't love. I don't love Clemson's defense either. I think it's a very close game.
It's going to be a very close
Could
game.
go either way. I say Clemson upset South Carolina in Columbia. I'll take Clemson plus 5.5 down in Columbia, South Carolina.
Now I'm going to use some Mike Gleason logic, and I'm going to use some other logic, and I'm going to shock my friend down in Columbia.
You're going to take South Carolina,
and
you're going to say Clemson's a bad defensive team.
Well, they are a bad defensive team.
Right, and you don't take them on the road, which I said, but I just took Clemson there.
I'm not going to go there when I don't take them on the road.
Right.
But if you've watched how they've played since the loss to Florida State, have they really had any good efforts? They really haven't.
They have not and haven't played anybody.
Right. They haven't played anybody.
They're saving it for this game right
now. And they haven't been impressive. And, you talk about defense not being good. Their offense, since that Florida State effort, has been extremely uninspired.
I agree.
I think you'd agree with me there.
I agree totally.
Very one-dimensional, very unimaginative. Taj Boyd hasn't been great. And South Carolina, on the other hand, look at what they've done since. The Missouri win was a good win.
It's a great win.
They've had some other good wins, and they've flat out impressed me with what they've done.
Didn't play well against Florida, though. South Carolina they won, but it wasn't. They didn't blow them out.
But you're going to have one of those once in a while. But generally, from their last loss moving forward, they've been very, very impressive. It's at home. You talk about the big home field advantage, and a lot of this is a combination of the way South Carolina has been playing and the way Clemson hasn't been playing. I'm going to take South Carolina to cover the number.
Wow.
It's going to be a tight game. But South Carolina is going to win this game, cover that number, probably by about a touchdown. But unfortunately, while you get a moment where you continue to win the in-state rivalry, you're not going to win the SEC.
Now,
you're not even going to win the SEC East because Missouri's going to win their game, and they're going to go to the SEC championship game. So you still won't be able to send me a division-winning or conference-winning shirt or hat.
You know, it's funny.
I shouldn't pick on him. He's sick. I should pick on a man.
The beginning of the season, I thought me and you were going to go the opposite way on this.
So did I.
I was going to take South Carolina, and you were going to take Clemson.
I certainly not a million years before the Florida State game did I think I would ever go in this direction.
Right.
But in all reality,
and I went the opposite way myself.
Watching it come down, I think that South Carolina is going to win this game, and they'll go to a bowl game, they'll go to a good bowl game, and they'll be ranked in the top 10. But again, they won't win their division in the SEC. They won't win the conference. And you may be able to send me like a Gator Bowl or an Outback Bowl winning hat, but that's about it.
Steve Spurrier was quoted this week, I think. I think he said if we played Clemson 10 years in a row, we beat them 10 times in a row. The coaches do not like each other here. These two coaches have a lot of animosity towards each other.
The Fighting Dabos have got to get, if they're going to win this game, they really got to get on the beam, and they haven't played well. So I'm intrigued to watch that, and certainly I think that's a 7:45 Eastern time.
Oh, I'm watching that
ESPN
game.
Or ESPN2
Absolutely.
tilt. I'm not sure, but I know it's an ESPN Family and Networks tilt. That is one of the ones I'm really going to keep an eye on.
These two teams get after it. I promise you. I know it doesn't get the headlines of some of the other rivalries. This game takes a backseat to no one as far as
and there's
passion.
Enough big games coming on specifically at the 7 o'clock hour, and a whole bunch of them on the ESPN Family and Networks. If you have their station that gives you the whip around coverage like NFL Red Zone, lock on that. You'll be able to catch a good glimpse of all those football games. Keep Stanford Notre Dame on the other television, and you got a great night of viewing.
So we went the opposite way on that. You like South Carolina, and I will take the Clemson Tigers. And I usually take SEC or ACC, not here, though.
That's the other part of the logic. I took SEC over ACC.
I'm taking Clemson here. Okay, on to our next rivalry game, and this game is just the game.
Right.
The game.
It's not the only the game, but it's the game.
They call Cal-Stanford, which was last week, the big game. That was the big blowout, by the way. This is just the game. Number 3, Ohio State, who is undefeated and still hasn't lost under Urban Meyer, by the way.
And will be undefeated for 2 seasons and not go to a national championship.
At Michigan, who is 7-4, and I have not been impressed with Michigan this year. First meeting, 1897. This is the 109th meeting. Michigan leads 58-44-6. Ohio State won last year in Columbus. Ohio State is a 12-point favorite. I am not impressed with Michigan at all, and I love the coach. I'm very down on Michigan's team this year. I think Ohio State buries Michigan in the big house. I know it's a big rivalry. It's one of the biggest, if not the biggest rivalry. I don't see how Michigan has any chance in this game. Ohio State rolls. I do give Michigan State a puncher's chance in the Big Ten title game because of their defense.
Save that for next week.
Right, but I give Michigan no chance in the big house.
I give them no chance either. I couldn't agree with you more. The game is going to be the blowout.
Right.
Yeah, Ohio State's that good. And I've been impressed with them, particularly the second half of this season.
Struggled at Northwestern, got through that game.
I understand that.
Everyone has one of those games.
You're going to have those.
Yeah.
And again, the big reason they're ranked number 3 instead of number 1 or number 2 is their conference and their schedule. Unfortunately, there's not a darn thing they can do about it. But all they can do is go out and beat who's in front of them. Michigan's what's in front of them. It's a mismatch. On paper, off paper, rivalry aside. The rivalry might be the only thing that might keep it close, but I don't believe it will. I think Ohio State needs to build style points plus they need help. So they are going to bring it and bring it in a major way. And they are going to whoop up on Michigan, I don't know, 56-21 or something like that. I really think it's a blowout. And, because Michigan's just not that good.
No,
they're a 7-win football team who have some really bad losses on their resume this year and don't have very many marquee or impressive wins. I've just not been impressed by them.
No.
And I think these two teams are in two different places.
And I like the Michigan coach. Do you like the Michigan
I think
coach?
Brady Hoke's a very good coach.
Right, but I have not been impressed with Michigan at all, basically since the Notre Dame game. They won that game, but after that...
I guess that's a signature win.
It looks better
But if that's
now.
your signature win, a bottom of the top 25... That's not going to get it done against the number team 3.
So
we
we
are
are
in America.
in total agreement, but this is a must-watch game.
Oh, this is a must-watch.
12 Eastern Standard Time. You have to watch Ohio State, Michigan.
I mean, just to show you, we've talked about some of these other rivalries and how much some of these teams hate each other.
Right.
I heard this today as I was traveling about. They had Woody Hayes met President Gerald Ford at the airport in Columbus.
Right.
And Gerald Ford, as everybody knows, is a Michigan alum, played on the Michigan football team and everything else. And they have a picture in it, I guess the Columbus Dispatch, I believe, is their newspaper.
Right.
And it's one of these type of pictures,
Right.
It's Woody Hayes in on the front page of the paper with his meeting the President of the United States. And it says Woody Hayes and friends.
Right, exactly. Well, it's
I'm
funny.
like, oh my God.
Right.
It's the president of Woody Hayes and friends.
Right, it's funny. Ohio State doesn't even call Michigan. They call them the team up north. They don't even refer to them by name. It's the team up north. They don't even say Michigan.
But I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
Absolutely.
It's like Woody Hayes and friends. It's like it's the president.
Right, exactly. So we are in lockstep, as you would say. Ohio State rolls, but must watch every year.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you got a couple. You got a couple of good rivalry games. This one, the must watch at 12 noon. You may be able to duck out by 1:30 because it's over, but you got to start. You got to watch from the beginning.
And you've never been to Ohio State or Michigan. Is this
No.
on the bucket list?
Ann Arbor certainly, and the Horseshoe as well. Yeah.
Now, would you go to this rivalry game in particular, or would you just go
Any for both of those places? They're places you have to go see a football.
There we go. So
I'd love to get to this one, but that's not as easier said than done.
Right, exactly. So we're in agreement. Ohio State rolls. All right, let's get to our next rivalry game, and this one could be very one-sided as well. The Battle for the Sunshine State, a game that I usually love. Very hard this year, though. Number 2 Florida State at 11-0 at Florida, who is 4-7, having one of their worst seasons ever.
4-7, lost 7 straight.
Won't go to a bowl game. Lost to Georgia Southern. Gave up 400 yards rushing to Georgia Southern.
Like I said, be wary. The triple option is tough to prepare for in 1 week, even if it comes at you from a 1AA level.
Georgia Southern had 0 passing yards in the swamp and still won.
By the way, you know how many passing yards I had this weekend? 0.
Exactly.
I didn't play in a game.
The first meeting between these two, by the way...
And why would you need to pass the ball when you're running it for over 400 yards?
Exactly.
Just keep running it.
First meeting between these two, 1958. Remember, Florida State used to be a girls' school.
I know.
Used to be a girls' school. Florida leads the all-time series 34-21-2. Florida, believe it or not, won last year in Tallahassee. How things have changed in a year. I think Florida State is just going to dismantle Florida. The spread is 30, and I had to look...
Oh, that's way too small.
I had to look long and hard for this spread because it was off the board. Then you couldn't find it. You don't know about the Winston situation. You don't know who's quarterback in Florida. They may be down to their 3rd quarterback. I mean, Murphy...
What are you doing Saturday?
We might not... Florida State is going to continue blowing out teams. They've been blowing out everyone. It doesn't end here.
I mean, the caveat obviously is if Jameis Winston plays.
Right.
If he doesn't play,
I'm saying
if he doesn't play, that 30 number could be a little tricky to deal with.
I'm going on the premise that he does play because it's getting...
If we go on the premise that he does play, that 30 number may be attainable by halftime.
Right, and by the way, this probably will be the biggest spread in this rivalry's history. I don't think Florida has ever been...
Muscamp could be unemployed.
Right. I don't think Florida's ever been a 30-point underdog at home against anyone. This is unheard of. I mean, in the swamp, you're 30-point...
Maybe in the Ron Zook era.
I don't know. 30-point underdog in the swamp? Unheard unheard of in this rivalry.
Oh, absolutely.
But well deserved.
Will Muschamp could be unemployed at the end of the season.
Florida, I have to give him a break. I say do not fire him.
They
have been ravaged by injuries. They're down to their third quarterback. The defense, which was good, was ravaged by injuries.
No, I agree.
Give them a break. I mean, they have had too many injuries. Florida State has just been bombing everybody.
They're a machine.
They will destroy Florida in the swamp. This game will not be close. Florida can't move the ball against anyone. They're not going to score here at all. I mean,
if Georgia Southern can dominate you,
right?
What do you expect Florida State doing in a swamp, in the river? It doesn't matter where you play. This game is over at halftime. Like I said, I think the potential for both of those 12 o'clock matchups.
Right.
You sit down in front of the TV at 11:55, get through game day, watch these two. By 1:30, you can go do some running around before you settle in for the Iron Bowl.
And there will be a lot of war chanting in the swamp this weekend. I hate to tell you, Florida fans, but Florida State is going to bombard Florida. I see no way how it's even close for a half. I think it's over in the first quarter. How is Florida going to do anything against this team?
They won't move the ball and can't stop them. Other than that, they're fine.
And it's funny. I love this.
Maybe come out and take a knee. This is the start.
This is one of my favorite games, but how do you get into it this year? I mean, it doesn't look like you have anything to go on this year.
You have to tune it in just because Florida State's number 2 in America.
Right.
And if they have a hiccup, they're not going to the national title game.
Right.
I don't think the hiccup is coming.
Now, you said you love this Alabama team. I love this Florida State team as much as you love this Alabama team. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if Florida State doesn't lose Winston, I'm going to probably pick them against Alabama. If
I know you are.
And you love Alabama, but I have been so impressed with Florida State since they blew out Clemson in Clemson, which nobody does. No one goes into Clemson and puts a beating on Clemson.
And that was a dismantling, destruction.
The fans were leaving. I've never seen Clemson fans during a game leave. Never seen it.
You don't see that.
So I've been so impressed with Florida State. And to me, they're my favorite team of the year. You, of course, like Alabama. You're in love with
I'm
that
enamored
team.
with Alabama. I'm not an Alabama fan.
Right, but
I'm
you
just
love
enamored
this
with
team,
the program,
right.
and I love this group.
Right. See, I love this Florida State.
And maybe
group.
they have the best name in college football. Ha-ha, Clinton Dix.
Right. So that is our segue to the biggest game.
The main event of the evening.
This game is just
scheduled for 4 quarters and approximately 3.5 hours.
I don't care what you're doing on Saturday. Get somewhere to watch this game. It's must-watch TV for any sports fan. If you are just a casual
But I don't like college football.
Right. If you don't like college football...
If you don't like college football, you're probably not watching this.
Try it out. You'll fall in love with it. It doesn't get any better than Alabama-Auburn. And throw this in. Alabama's ranked number 1 undefeated. Auburn's up to 4. They're up to 4. Auburn's 10-1. They've only lost to LSU. And you know also what I love about these rivalry games? I should have said this before. I love when the better team is on the road. That's
more intrigue.
That's what makes it very interesting.
It up, baby.
You put the better team on the road, then you got something cooking in these rivalry games. And you have a lot of that this week. Ohio State's on the road. You got Alabama on the road, Florida State's on the road, but we can't really make a case for Florida. Clemson is on the road. You got a lot of that going on here. That's when these games are even better. Get to a television set, the Iron Bowl.
I'm there.
Alabama, number 1, 11-0, at number 4, Auburn, who is 10-1, and I love what Auburn is doing. Had that miracle win against Georgia, by the way. Blew that game and had that miracle finish. 78th meeting between these two teams. Alabama leads 42-34-1. I was actually surprised it was that close with Alabama's history.
Yeah, me too.
They have an 8-game lead, which is a decent lead, but not as dominant as you'd think. Being Alabama's history is so
absolutely no question.
They used to play in Birmingham and Montgomery before they took these games on campus. Alabama's won the last 2. Auburn won in 2010. Remember, that was the dramatic come-from-behind win with Cam Newton.
That was the Cam Newton game.
Cam Newton game when they fell way behind in Tuscaloosa, rallied to win. Auburn went on to win the national title.
Yep.
The last 4 national titles belong to these two teams. Alabama has 3, and Auburn has 1. The national title has not...
Trophy doesn't have to leave the state of Alabama.
Has not, and we could be looking at 5 this year. We could very well be looking at 5. Alabama is an 11.5-point favorite in Auburn.
That's a huge number.
Now,
that's the first thing. When I hear that number, the first thing I say, After that setup, I say, wow, that's a huge number.
Huge number, and I like Alabama. I love what Nick Saban's done there. They do everything the right way there, the way they tackle, the way they prepare. I love everything about Alabama, but I also have a lot of respect for Jordan-Hare Stadium and those crazy fans down there. And I told you, they've been there since Sunday already, gearing up for this game. Now the spread,
I'm sorry, that was
the spread.
That was me hiccup.
The spread I think is way too high for this rivalry game. Auburn's ranked 4. They're 10-1. They've only lost to LSU. That was on the road. Auburn does not take beatings in their own building.
Okay.
Auburn will be in this game. I am taking Auburn plus 11.5, and I'll tell you what. I wouldn't be shocked if Auburn won outright in this game.
Wow. Because I would be.
Auburn plus 11.5. Those fans are some of the best fans in all of college football. This rivalry means so much to these players. Throw out the records, throw out the point spreads. Auburn will be in this game. They have a chance to win this game. I would not be shocked if Auburn won this game. I would not be shocked at all. I am taking Auburn plus 11.5 points against Alabama.
Well, I would be shocked if Auburn won this game. I think it's going to be a terrific game. Initially, when I heard that number, I said, boy, it's big.
Way too high.
You know, it's a big
this
number.
Rivalry
when
game,
I read that number this week and then hear it again coming from you, I think that's a big number. That being said, I talk a lot about styles making matchups.
Right.
Alabama offensively has it all this year. They have the elite quarterback. He should win the Heisman Trophy, but he won't.
He's in the running, though.
He's in the running. But they haven't had that kind of quarterback at Alabama in a long, long time. And certainly none of these Saban teams have had that kind.
By the way, big article on him in Sports Illustrated, along with his girlfriend Webb, and
who, by the way, is an Auburn graduate.
Right, and she said she's afraid to go to the game this week because she doesn't know what to expect. So, and this is the first game, the Alabama-Auburn game, that she's actually going to since she's been dating the Alabama quarterback.
Right. That being said, you know, you get into this matchup. They've got the usual terrific stable of running backs led by T.J. Yeldon.
They have it all, Alabama.
Terrific offensive line. All kinds of weapons on the outside. A couple of real good tight ends. Defensively, they could have one of the best front sevens in America. If there's a spot to attack Alabama, it's that back four. It's not as good as all the other spots on the football field. And if Auburn were a different kind of football team, I'd say, boy, they have a chance to not only really keep it close, but win this game. Nick Marshall is not the kind of quarterback that can exploit that back line. He's not a dual threat option in the mold of Johnny Football and some of the others that have given Alabama real trouble. He's a far better running quarterback than he is throwing quarterback. And that's not something that Auburn is going to be able to exploit as a result. They're not going to be able to exploit that shaky, comparatively shaky to everything else on the field.
Right.
Alabama secondary. Nick Marshall doesn't provide that skill set. If you put Johnny Manziel and made him the quarterback of the Auburn Tigers, I'd pick Auburn.
Right.
Nick Marshall can't exploit that Alabama secondary. As a result, while I think it's going to be a close game that's going to get away from Auburn late, I think Alabama will cover that number as a result.
Wow. All right, let me say this. Let me go the other way here. Alabama, a couple weeks ago, played at Mississippi State. They were right to be picked off that game. And Mississippi State is nowhere near the
By the way,
talent.
how many points did Mississippi State score in that one?
7.
Let me get because get your calculator out. Nobody's scoring in even double digits.
They scored
against Alabama.
7, but just missed so many opportunities because of their own things that they did wrong.
Alabama slogged their way through that game.
Didn't play well there. And here's another thing: who has Alabama really throttled on the road this year? They won at Texas A&M, but they only won by, They won by 7 in that game. It was 49-42.
Right.
Who have they dismantled on the road this year?
Nobody.
Exactly. Now you're going into one of the toughest places to play for a big game. These fans are tremendous in Auburn.
No, there's no question. Everything you've said is right. I just think from the stylistic standpoint that Nick Marshall can't exploit Alabama's weakest unit, which is their secondary. And if they had more of a pure dual-threat quarterback, one that could throw it nearly as well as he runs it, I think Auburn probably have a real good chance to win this game outright. With Nick Marshall being the kind of quarterback that he is, I think the advantage tilts towards Alabama. I think this game is going to be within a touchdown throughout. I think Auburn being behind most of the way, Nick Marshall throws the late pick to make it a 2-touchdown margin.
I think with that crowd, I think with the Eagle landing in the middle of the field to start the game, I think Auburn gets out to a fast start, builds momentum, and hangs on to win this game. I'm picking Auburn outright to win this game.
You're upsetting everything.
Auburn wins this game outright, knocks Alabama out of the SEC title game.
You heard it here first.
Out of the national title game, and then we have a debate on our hands. Would it be Florida State and Ohio State, or would Auburn jump some of these teams?
Here's the interesting part. Auburn could jump Ohio State.
That's what I'm saying. Could they do it with one loss? Now, they would have beat number one Alabama.
If you beat number one Alabama,
and then Missouri,
then you go on to the SEC championship game and beat either, because we still have to give South Carolina, either top 5 Missouri or top 5 or top 10 South Carolina. Man, it's going to be tough.
And the SEC gets a lot of respect.
A ton of respect. When you consider that Ohio State has played nobody.
Now, I think what's going to
that non-conference slate of San Diego State, Cal, and I don't remember who else.
I think what's going to save
the MAC team of your choice.
I think what's going to save Ohio State is Michigan State has moved up the rankings enough. If Ohio State beats them, they will get into that national
maybe just
title
enough.
game.
And again, I'd have to get into some of the prognosticators, but boy, can I tell you what? If Alabama loses, Auburn wins, Auburn goes on to win the SEC championship game, Florida State's the undisputed number 1, assuming they run out.
Right.
The battle for 2 and 3 between Auburn and Ohio State will be a whisker.
Yes, it will be. And I'll tell you what. Here's another question. Say Winston gets suspended. Does Florida State still play in the national title game with the backup quarterback?
Here's the funny part. They would be able to do enough against Florida, regardless of who the quarterback is, to win that game. If they can find their way past Duke, you can't take them out of the game because you're not going to drop them in the rankings.
Right. Just because...
You can't.
I know.
It's not the NCAA college basketball tournament where Cincinnati is the number 1 team in the country, but Kenyon Martin gets hurt, so we'll make him
That's
a 2
what
seed.
I'm asking you.
You can't do that in college
football.
football.
You can't penalize the whole team.
No.
I remember back when Tennessee won the national title with Fulmer.
T. Martin at the quarterback, not Peyton Manning.
Right.
Peyton Manning leaves, they win a national championship.
They beat Florida.
Just thought I'd bring that up.
Right. They beat Florida State. Winkie was the quarterback. Winkie got hurt, had neck surgery, didn't play in that game. Florida State was still in the game, but it destroyed the game. Tennessee won, and Florida State, the backup, was awful. It was an awful mess of a game. Florida State had no chance to win that game. Now, they were still in the game, but once Winkie went out, forget it.
It wasn't competitive. Yeah.
Right.
So I don't think you'd see Florida State taken out of the game.
Right.
But, we're to the point where the polls and everything else, because you're not going to drop them in the polls. And unlike the NCAA men's college basketball tournament, where there's a committee that actually figures this out,
right?
Because if there was a committee, I could see them getting dropped out.
Right.
In college football, at least as it's done now,
right,
it's a compilation of polls and computer rankings. Well, the polls, they won't rank Florida lower because Winston's gone because they still haven't lost.
Right.
The computers can't factor in Jameis Winston not being there. So when it's all said and done, if Winston gets suspended and they manage to win those 2 games, they'll be in a national title game. Their opponent will come in and blow them out.
There you go. So you like Alabama to not only win but cover?
Yes, I do.
I am saying Auburn for sure with the points. I am saying Auburn pulls the stunner of the year. They win. They knock Alabama out of the SEC title game.
Wow.
Knock them out of
gutsy,
the
man.
national title game. Auburn. I told you at the beginning of the year, Jordan-Hare Stadium is one of my favorite stadiums. Those Auburn fans are some of my favorite stadiums in all of the United States. They are going to go crazy. They are going to make the difference here in this game. Make no mistake about it. The Auburn fans carry the day in this game.
Fair enough. 7 days from now, we get to discuss this again.
Right.
See who was right and who was wrong in this array of rivalry matchups, because next week we get to talk about a small slate of games revolving around conference championships, and I guess we can spend a lot of time recapping some of these matchups.
No, absolutely. But this is a must week for college football fans to watch.
Starts on Thursday night.
I mean,
it takes you through Friday. It takes you through Saturday. And then you go to the NFL. It's going to be a great sports weekend.
And
there's college basketball all over the landscape as Thanksgiving comes up. The Maui Invitational's going. The Great Alaska
Shootout.
Shootout.
The Maui Invitational. I'm picking Syracuse to win that.
The Great Alaska Shootout.
Right, yes.
Is going to be underway by then. And there'll be a whole host of other games. We've already seen some tournaments take place and conclude. This is a great college sports. It's a great sports weekend, period.
By the way, going to college basketball, that BYU team you like, you know what? I like that Iowa State team that beat them that night. Iowa State looks like a good team. They beat Michigan, too.
They do. You are exactly right.
But this week is to die for college football fans. Now, obviously the Alabama-Auburn game is the top game. What is your second choice game that you're really looking forward to watching behind the Alabama-Auburn? It's tough. I mean, there's a lot of games here. Notre Dame. You're a Notre Dame fan.
Let's take the fact that I'm a Notre Dame fan out of it, and you've got 3 games in that evening slate. I know normally you'd say the game, but I think it's going to be so lopsided.
You can't put
Florida State. No. I'm going to watch those because of the national title implications more than anything else.
Right.
It's that Missouri Texas A&M game.
You like that game?
That's going to be a good, fun game. It also has borderline national title implications.
Right.
I love that football game. I love both of them. I like that game. I love that South Carolina Clemson game.
That's right.
But you asked me to pick one. I'll take the Missouri Texas A&M.
Second choice to me is without a doubt Clemson-South Carolina. That's a game I would love to go to. I would probably pick going down to Clemson. I upset the South Carolina fans.
Don't pick on your guy. He's sick. He's got food poisoning.
I love the game, but if I was to pick
his team's mascot is named after Pooh.
Right. If I was to pick the venue, I would rather go to Clemson than Columbia. That's just me personally, but that game I would love to get to. Let's put that on our bucket list.
Put it on a bucket list. We'll make it happen. But might be a place for a road trip.
But this is like one of the best weeks of football for the year when you combine not only the college football but the NFL, then like you said, the college basketball.
It's great to be a sports fan, and most people with the holidays here for Thanksgiving and all, it's a great opportunity because you have more downtime. You get to watch a lot of sports.
Of course, unless you're a Bulls fan. I mean, how about Derrick Rose again going out?
Hey, it could be worse. You could be a Knicks fan.
Or a Nets fan. How about that? I mean, Mike, talk about
New York pro basketball, boy. Live it.
Absolutely.
Love it. Not.
So you guys, get in front of your sets this weekend. I know you're probably not going to be able to watch all the games like me and Joe are. You have to watch Alabama-Auburn. There's
no question.
It's a must. If you're going to watch one game, watch that one, DVR it, get to a bar somewhere. That's the one game you have to watch through. As you can see, we're very excited. And we're not overstating this either. We wouldn't tell you if these games were good. We just wouldn't say it. I mean, we love these games. These games are great. These games...
Hey, how many times have we come and told you? The schedule stinks. I've actually told you.
Right.
Spend some... If you made your girlfriend a football widow or your wife a football widow, take her out. This is not the weekend. Grab a highlight package, DVR, a couple of... This is... Be there. Watch. Start at noon. If those noon games aren't great and they end up blowouts at 1:30, go do a couple of things, but get back in front of that television.
These games have
and don't move until midnight.
These games have over 100 years of history, some of them. Yeah. I mean, some of them they've been playing since the 1800s, some of them.
And when you tune into some of these games, as you've said, Mike, try and tune in as soon as they open up the coverage.
Yes,
right from the time they're doing the stand-up, because they will show you those two teams meeting at midfield and jumping around, and some of the pageantry that goes on before the game starts. And sometimes that's every bit as fun and exciting and good as the game.
That's what makes college football so great and so unique. The pageantry, the venues, the fans.
It's not business. It is business. But it's not all business like pro sports.
No,
pro sports are all business.
Absolutely. So I hope you guys get in front of your sets this weekend. Joe, tell them where they could find you.
You can check me out on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, and that network airs on Sirius XM satellite radio. I'm on 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. If you want to find an affiliate in your area, www.sportsbyline, spelled BYLINE.com. You can find an affiliate there for listings and availability, and you can also listen to us via the Listen Live link. Just click it, and heck, there we are. Channel 11 Morning News, WPIX Morning News. You'll see me on there, usually 6:45 a.m. Eastern Time, anytime a big sports story comes out, or the two local football teams in this market are playing on a Monday or Thursday night, I'll preview and recap. Those are the places you can find me, as well as here. Also want to wish all of you out there that have welcomed me to this group and to this program a very happy, healthy, safe Thanksgiving. It's truly been an honor, and I can't wait to come back next week, recap these games, and get into all the conference championship stuff.
No, absolutely. Thanks to Joe, as always. You guys have a great Thanksgiving. Remember, I did my NFL picks yesterday, early this week, a very early week.
You got a busy schedule because of the holiday week.
Exactly. So I'll be back with you guys Monday, and we'll have all sorts of things to recap. So you guys have a great Thanksgiving. Watch as much of these games as possible. And remember, Auburn beats Alabama this week. I'll talk to you Monday. Take care.
Out. Perfect.